President Cyril Ramaphosa is legally challenging the Section 89 panel report. He believes it's flawed. eNCA reporter Pule Letshwiti-Jones is looking at the legalities of it all and joins us now. Pule, good morning. Now, the application was indeed filed yesterday, but some are concerned about it not being filed on an urgent basis. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, well, earlier on I spoke to a legal analyst who said that it wasn't necessary to actually, have to go to court and file this on an urgent application. And I've continued to seek other voices as well, such as speaking to political analysts as well, to get a view of what this means for the party. I mean, it was quite clear from the Treasurer General of the ANC yesterday, Paul Bashatile, that the ANC MPs will have to toe the line and vote against the report as well, which highly implicates the president. The report, which was of course handed over to the National Assembly Speaker by the Section 89 panel. But I'm just going to get another voice as well from a political analyst just to look at the overview, story and development of how it's been going on in the past couple of hours. She joins me now. Thank you very much for joining us, Elikhe. Now, obviously, we look at the legal parameters of this, and the president's taking the report in a judicial review. But what does it mean for the organization right now with what the TG of the movement had to say yesterday, of course, being Paul Mashatile?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got an indication in the sense of the direction that the NEC was going to take, given the outcomes of the meeting from the National Working Committee the day before. And so it wasn't surprising for me that the NEC would then be in a similar vein or similar fashion in saying that the report, they wouldn't necessarily reject it, but they will not support a vote of no confidence when it comes to not only the president of the ANC, but the president of the country, which for us tells us that the party, as well as its members, has been able to sort of consolidate itself. Yeah. And they're very, very well accustomed to sort of closing ranks in and of themselves when there's some sort of threat to their candidate. We've seen this with the Jacob Zuma era, with the multiple votes of no confidence that were tabled when he was the president, and the ANC also being able to ensure that its members toe the line where it is necessary. So I think for the party, it has sent a very strong signal that the current president of the party is likely to be their candidate, but most importantly, that they will protect him at all costs. But I think what is more important, I think, for the country is the credibility of the president currently. And what does this mean with the application that has been filed to take the panel's report under review, and what this means as well for the meeting that will take place in Parliament on the 13th of December, and also, of course, all of this having implication for what is happening with the elective conference from the 16th of December. So there's a lot that's happening from the legal perspective, but I think in the political domain, we are seeing that in many instances, the current president of the party does have a stronghold within the party, and that his detractors have failed, at least for this week. Of course, things change overnight, so by next week we might be saying something different.
I mean, you speak about moving over into next week. We know about the reports from the Integrity Committee, which is expected to be released again. Plus, there's the parliamentary session, which I stand to be corrected, will convene on the 13th, I think Tuesday as well. What does this mean? Does this mean the president is off the hook for now?
I wouldn't necessarily say he's off the hook, but I would say that he has been able to maneuver his way out of this particular point and this particular process. I mean, being able to get the backing of the party, I think, does show that he is in good standing somewhat. But I think the outcomes, like you said, of the Integrity Committee would be also very important. Also, given that the infamous step aside rule will be discussed going into the conference, and whether or not that will be adopted as a resolution of the party. And I think the test of the committee will be very important to say what are the measures and the tests that they will use to be able to adjudicate this matter and to determine whether or not the current president of the party is still fit to lead the party. But I think what is also important is that the president of the country is using the courts now to be able to determine whether or not he has the trust of if he'll be able to win over the trust of the citizen yet again. So the judiciary is now coming in to sort of play the role of rehabilitating the president. Should they find that this particular report has erred in the the side of judgment and the application of the law, this will then give credibility to the president and hopefully restore the faith that he has with the people of the country. And of course, the inverse of that would be if out of this review we find that the review suggests that the outcomes of the panel were indeed correct, this also then poses challenges and questions to what does this mean then for the Republic, and what does it mean as well for the stance that Parliament is going to take in relation to not only the review but also in relation to the process and that has to unfold in terms of tabling a vote of no confidence or an impeachment process.
I mean, what would this mean for the organisation as well if the decision by the Apex Court does not go in favour of the president? I mean, you hear Mashatile saying we'll cross the bridge when we get there, but it does inspire confidence as well as to, does the organisation have a next plan to say what happens if indeed this report, which was handed over to the National Assembly by the Section 89 panel, does find that there's a case to answer here for?
I mean, the ANC currently, I think it doesn't know what to do with the report.
Yeah.
We've seen that it has had meetings after meetings and not really having a very clear stance. Specifically the NEC, they have been waiting on deliberations from the president, meeting with his own advisory people, and then we've seen the deliberations that have come out of the National Working Committee, and now the NEC as well sort of taking that similar stance. And it seems as if the president of the Republic is ahead of what is happening within the party, and that he is sort of setting the tone of how the response is taking place within the party. And I think we are in many ways seeing that there is no clear distinction between party and president, and that there is a very synchronized relationship that's taking place here. And so we don't know what the stance of the party is independent of the stance of the president of the Republic. And again, it shows us that in a one-party dominant country such as ourselves, the party and state lines become quite blurred, and we don't really get a sense of what is the stance of the party versus whether or not the party really is taking the lead from the president of the Republic. And so the ANC is not really showing any firm stance of its own, more than it is sort of trying to get a sense of what do they do with this information given the stance that the president of the Republic is taking. So the ANC needs to have a really inward discussion on what really is its stance, given that it has committed itself to renewing the organization and to do away with corruption and to do away with any sort of misconduct that has put the party under spotlight over the last decade. And so we really need to get a show and a sense of what really is the actual stance of the ANC in relation to the information that we've received.
And just lastly, I mean, we saw that there's now a scandal against the deputy president, where ARSA saying they'll be laying a criminal complaint against David Mabuza. We've seen what's happening with the president as well. Some are also saying that the TG, Paul Mashatile, should not be, just to be let alone. There's also allegations to his name in link to the Alexandra Renewal Story project as well, to the tune of about over $1 billion. What is this? Is this a silly season? We know the EFF also coming out to say we should prepare to have Didi Mabuza as the next president in Christmas, to read a Christmas message. This is external pressure. The DA as well saying that there should be a discussion in Parliament regarding this report. What are we seeing unfolding here?
I mean, we are seeing that the ANC is, as we've seen over the past decade, is in crisis, right? And with silly season, or rather what we are calling the silly season as South Africans, we are also aware that this is probably one of the most highly contested elective conferences coming up in post-apartheid South Africa. So we've come out of state capture and the Commission of Inquiry and sort of the evidence that is brought forward, and now we've gone into Phala-Phala, and also we've gone into knowing that the ANC has diminished its voter outcome, and that the electorate itself is punishing the ANC. And so all of these things that are taking place inside of the party and also external to it are also reflective of the fact that this is a highly contested moment for the ANC. And of course, the Smolanyana skeletons, as we've come to know them, will come out in the scramble for power. And so it doesn't surprise us that these things have come out, and it also doesn't surprise us that there will be instances where there is a determined move to discredit party leaders or those who are potentially in the running for that particular seat of power of the ANC, and maybe by extension the seat of the state. And so we are seeing that this is just the normal workings of politics and politicking. And I think the South African citizen needs to be very aware of that and to be very clued up on what this means gearing up to 2024 and whether or not they still find resonance within the party. And if they don't, then I think opposition parties themselves are finding themselves in a moment where they have to seriously think about what it means to be in opposition and what is the kind of alternative that they're hoping to build.
All right, thank you very much, the political analyst joining us this morning on eNCA, just giving us sort of an overview of what's currently unfolding within the political arena and the legal space as well. And it seems as though, from the journey to the 2022 Nasrec, conference will be muddled by a lot of tribulations, as it is hotly contested. We're currently seeing right now the ANC having to deal with most of these challenges as well.
It's certainly been a very interesting journey thus far. A few days to go to that elective conference. Thank you very much for that. That's Pule Letshwiti-Jones giving us the very latest analysis on the matters unfolding in the world of politics.